It is time for This Week in Location-Based Marketing. This is episode number 107, recorded live on December 7th, 2012. On today's show, the carriers strike back, Broadcastr spins to Spun, plus acquisition news from Urban Airship, fundings by Clearstory and Poshmark, and special guest, Spun co-founder Scott Lindenbaum. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 107 of This Week in Location-Based Marketing. It is December 7th. We're recording this live between Asif Khan and myself. My name, of course, Rob Woodbridge from Untether.tv, located in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and live from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Asif, take it away, buddy. Welcome.
Thanks, bud. Asif Khan, the Location-Based Marketing Association, 107 episodes in. We're back at it again. It's been a crazy busy week for me. A lot of travel again, as usual.
Yes.
Three conferences actually this week. So it started in Toronto at home, speaking at the iStrategy conference here, with a great group of folks from Rogers and Coca-Cola and Centricity and a few agency folks and just a phenomenal discussion around location with a 500 plus brand marketing people in the room.
Wow,
awesome. And then went over to Miami and spoke at a Latin American mobile payments conference, and so got to hear and see what was going on in Latin South America around banking, and a lot of the banks were up from the various countries. Telefonica gave a great presentation about what they're doing in the market. American Express and MasterCard are very active around mobile payments solutions in the market, and it's interesting to contrast and see the differences between sort of the number of unbanked people in Latin America versus North America, and what that means in terms of how mobile payments evolves. Obviously, when you don't have as high a penetration of smartphones and things like that, SMS becomes a really interesting proposition. Good conversation there and good discussion there, and then moved over to last night for our launch of the LBMA in Atlanta, our newest chapter there, and just a phenomenal reception from the local community. We had a great keynote that I delivered, and then just a killer panel. I actually titled the panel "The Best Panel Ever," made up of Tom Daly, who heads up global mobile operations at Coca-Cola. Louis Gump, who's head of mobile at CNN, Nico Duplessis, who runs mobile at the Weather Channel, and Matt Jones, who runs mobile at Home Depot. So just a phenomenal panel and a lot of great sharing of ideas and thoughts and challenges as well. So
it sounds like a phenomenal panel, and it's one of those things that I don't know what it is. The timing of it is great, and certainly Coca-Cola is right at the middle of this. And I think that these guys are obviously people to be listened to when it comes to what they do with everything. They invented branding, they invented marketing, product marketing, and placements. All these kind of things that you should be watching Coca-Cola for. Man, sounds like and Atlanta's a great place because you're at the center, right? You're in the middle of everything, yeah. And especially with Coke and Home Depot. Very cool. Now, what have you got lined up for next week? Is there anything that's happening, or are you winding down?
Yeah, next week's my last week of travel before the holidays. Right. I'm not doing anything after next week. So, if anybody in Toronto wants to see me after next week, I'm around. So I'm heading out to San Francisco for the Mobile Loco Conference, which is on the 11th. Mark Evans and his group are putting that on again. And it's a phenomenal jam-packed day of great speakers once again. So looking forward to that and participating in that discussion, and that will be the end of my travels for 2012.
Nice. And then you still qualify for the Super Ambassadors Flying Club, where you get your foot massage.
Something like that, yeah.
Well, let's see if there has to be somebody that does this. As the ambassador to the location-based marketing world, I suppose that you have volunteered, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, one other thing I do want to mention is we do have a LBMA chapter event happening next week as well, on the 13th in Amsterdam, or just outside of Amsterdam, actually. So the LBMA Amsterdam chapter is hosting an event on the 13th as well. So I won't be there, but many great people will.
Oh, man. Oh, well, it's good. It's probably going to be good to have you back in Toronto for an extended period of time, get to know your family again, I suppose.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Have a good Christmas. All right, well, we've got a jam-packed show. This is really great because I can't wait to actually play you the interview that we've got, which is featuring Scott Lindenbaum, who's the co-founder of a company called Spun, formerly Broadcastr, or something thereof, a transition from Broadcastr to a company called Spun. We definitely have some carrier news. We have some loyalty news, lots of carrier news, in fact. We've got some funding. Acquisitions. Our good friends at Urban Airship are up to it again, and we'll talk about that. And of course, we got our resource of the week, talking about the Omnichannel. What is it? Omnichannel marketing, right? The Omnichannel battle. This is a jam-packed show, so stick around for this whole thing. Before we get to these stories and much more, two messages. One, do not forget that you can subscribe to this through iTunes. Very important. You'll get it first. You don't even have to think about it at all. It'll just download to your device of choice, iOS. We've also in Stitcher Radio. We're also on BlackBerry Radio. We're in every place that you can get this. So do it in audio and video format. Second thing is, if you are coming to this show from Street Fight Mag or GPS Business News, welcome everybody. If this is your first show, welcome. We thank them for syndicating this content. We find that we're great partners, and we really appreciate the fact that they are pushing our content to you. So welcome everybody. So thank you guys at Street Fight Mag and GPS Business News. All right, our first story. This, our first two stories kind of encapsulate the things that we've talked about quite a bit from the very beginning. 106 episodes. This is number 107. We've been talked about the power that the carriers hold. And a while back, we talked about AT&T launched their location-based alerts, and they've finally rolled this thing out. This is an example of the power that a carrier has that nobody else has, which is reach into the customer. So AT&T launches this alerts nationwide. Pretty big.
Yeah, I'm really happy about this because I've been on the SMS geofencing, geolocation bandwagon for a long time. I'm a big fan, as you know, of what O2's been doing in the UK, with this kind of a service. And we've been lax in the North American market around carriers starting to roll this stuff out. So AT&T has been testing this for a while under the name Shop Alerts, powered on the back end by Placecast, and so now it's going nationwide. And they've got some great brands that are already have been using this: Gap, Staples, Neiman Marcus, Duracell, a whole bunch of companies have been using this platform. And so it's if you're a retailer, if you're a brand out there, and you want to get a message to an AT&T subscriber to try and drive traffic, increase footfall into your stores, you want to geofence your properties and do that, this is a good a good opportunity because obviously the obvious advantage of this model, and I've talked about it a lot, is the avoidance of having to drive app downloads by simply going to an SMS, which works on all devices. So it remains to be seen how many people will opt in on the network. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I think it's going to be significant. I wouldn't be surprised if a year from now it was well over 50%.
Yeah, why wouldn't you opt into this if you're an AT&T subscriber? I mean, they're going to be pushing the best deals. It just shows you that companies like Groupon, we railed on Groupon last week, I understand, but companies like Groupon are a service in somebody else's master product list, right? Something like this could disrupt something like Groupon in a second. Location-based deals by SMS from a carrier with how many subscribers, how many sales? Like this is, why wouldn't every single person automatically be signed up for this at point of sale, right? Because you might as well, you're not going to lose anything, you're just going to get deals.
Right.
Yeah.
And in a slightly sidebar story, and I didn't mention this to you, Rob, so I'll just throw it out there, though, but Verizon also launched a program this week called Verizon Selects. And it's slightly different in the way it's delivered. It's more around audience profiling. So the consumer still opts in, with an intention of being messaged. But the range of messaging channels is not limited to SMS in the Verizon case. It's mobile ads, in-app, it's SMS, it could be email, web, or even print mail pieces. So they're basically collecting the data in an opt-in model, building audience profiles, and then providing that out to marketers and retailers that want to use it. So slightly, different approach to it. Where the AT&T alert models, one-to-one sort of correlation between you defining what you're interested in and you getting pushed offers when you're crossing the geofences. This is more about you're agreeing to, share your data on a wider basis.
And you know what we'll do is we'll include a link to the Verizon Selects service as well in the show notes. But you can go to alerts.att.com in order to find out a little bit about the alerts. But again, this is all going to come down to it. Eventually, AT&T is going to get into demographic selection and psychographic selection and purchase history and what triggers and all those kind of things that the data that this kind of service brings with it. But if you're in the coupon business, I would shudder. Carriers ultimately have access to the customers. You know what the carrier can do is that when you buy this device, they can turn it on automatically.
Yeah.
Right? How do you compete with automatically? Right? You don't.
It's tough.
It is, and speaking of tough, this our second story is a great story, and this kind of demonstrates the power of mobile. It's around mobile purchase or ticket purchasing. Turkcell and Football Federation offering mobile ticketing, but when you explain it, we'll come back to the real power that I love about this thing, which is on the follow up of this. So, what Turkcell? This is for soccer fans, right? Or football fans?
Better known as football outside of North America. So this is in Turkey. Turkcell, the biggest carrier in the market, working with the Turkish Football Federation, has enabled mobile ticketing. So basically, what happens is you buy your tickets via an SMS text message, and then again, so it works on all devices. It doesn't have to be smartphone. Necessarily, feature phones can do this as well. So you simply text the word BILET, which is the word for ticket, and you can make that purchase, and then it just gets added onto your regular phone bill.
And that is what is so powerful is the carrier billing in this whole thing, which again, carriers can do, you guys can't, right? This is one of those great things, is that the carriers own that relationship, and this is why it's so important when we hear about carriers in Canada, for example, like Rogers applying to become chartered banks. I believe that this is the play that they're making. The other side of it is that this is a seamless transaction, right? The only thing I didn't understand was how people chose their seats. Right, so I don't understand, because you texted the word, the buy to a short message, and then you got a ticket somehow, and then they scanned it in. And this shows even another layer, is that for those people who don't have credit cards, those people who you don't have to stand in line because it's not a printed ticket. This is just, they had separate entrances to the games, and I think that this is a pretty significant shift. But the big thing for me is owning that relationship with the carrier to the consumer, and being able to.
Yeah. It's about simplicity, right? It's about making it really easy and not overcomplicating, a process. We talk about, how do you drive adoption around mobile payments? And we talked about this a lot at the conference in Miami. And, at the end of the day, there has to be real utility in it for the consumer, and it has to be, very easy for them as well. And that's what I like about this is, it's so simple. You just text, a word. You can, the payment goes on your bill. Obviously I haven't had a chance to play with it because I'm not in Turkey, but, to answer your question, I would guess that when you text it, it comes back with a message that, with a bunch of options that say, what range of ticket price do you want? choose from a series of links, that then also define what section you're sitting in. Probably something like that. But
simplicity, though, or it just gives you the best seat available, and then you just in your price range. This is driven by a company called OneBip.
Yes.
So if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about them, go to onebip.com.
Yeah, OneBip's part of a company called Neo Mobile. Yeah. So they're a carrier billing platform.
Yeah. I mean, and this is what this is when you make it seamless like this. This could be the wallet of the future, which is just direct to carrier, right? None of this storing cash in a PayPal, which I believe in PayPal as well. But this is pretty significant when you can do that, and you have an allowance or an ability to get some credit with your carrier company. Because you know what, out of everything that you pay very quickly, what do you pay most quickly? When they threaten to cut you off on your cell phone? Yeah, it's pretty quickly. They have the power to do that. Don't turn off my TV. All right, so Turkcell working with the Football Federation on ticketing, which is very cool. Now, here's an interesting retail story. CVS launching their mobile gift card exchange program. This is done with a company called Plasticjungle. Explain what this is, and then we'll talk about it, Asif.
Well, I'll start with talking about Plasticjungle.
Sure.
I mean, everybody knows who CVS is, but Plasticjungle is one of a group of companies out there. Others include CardSwap. That are focused on this idea of, the whole gift card market is a massive market at the moment, and still growing. And so, people, love to buy gift cards and give them out to, at Christmas or birthdays or whatever to people, for restaurants, for retail stores. And what happens with gift cards is that, either they don't get used at all. In many cases, they just sit around forever, and the retailer's already got their money. But they have to maintain that balance on their balance sheet. So there's issues around that. But more often than not, you use a gift card, and you buy whatever it is you're buying, and then there's this residual amount that stays on the gift card. That's like $1.32 or something like that. On a Starbucks card, which you typically would use, but I'm talking more like an Old Navy card or something like that. And so, what do you do with these cards that you've got like 4 or 5 of them in your wallet, with a $1.32 balance on them, right? Not a lot. So they just sit there, and you forget about them in most cases. So what these guys have done is CVS is the first time I've seen a retailer step up and do this. So kudos to them for partnering with Plasticjungle on this. But effectively, what they're saying is, you walk into any one of the 7,400 CVS stores, and you take your whatever gift cards that you have in your wallet with these small residual amounts, and you can trade them in for the total value of the accumulated value of those cards, those residual values, in exchange for a CVS gift card in that full amount, which you can then use to shop because you're already in the store. So all of this happens in the store, which is interesting. And then Plasticjungle takes those gift cards that you're giving up, you're turning over, and has a marketplace for reselling them.
I mean, this market is big, and how many of those Tim Horton cards do I have with 92 cents on them sitting in my car, and I just keep buying new ones. But this is it's an interesting play, and I just showed you like a Coleman card that's 25% off the face value of Coleman's. And before all of these things existed, you used to be able to do this on eBay. You could buy gift cards for $100 gift cards for $75, and this was great because gift cards expire. It's ridiculous that I say that, but gift cards are not the equivalent in cash. They have an expiration date for the most part, and if you don't use them, they go away. So you might as well get some value out of them. It's interesting that CVS is doing this. I think that they're missing that mobile piece where you can actually redeem from a mobile device. Now you still have to print them out and bring the card or the equivalent of the gift card printout with you to get the exchange. And it would be great if you could be doing it inside of the CVS. I'm in the CVS and I got all these cards, and whether it's in my mobile wallet or not, and I could pool them all together and sell them and then get that cash right while I'm in line, right? And I think that's really what's going to make this thing work very well. Is as we said in the previous story, just remove the friction. But it's pretty cool. I mean, you can check out Plasticjungle at plasticjungle.com, and if you're going to have to Google, yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, I should point out, I know I was throwing out the $1.32 and 92 cents you said, but there is a minimum. There has to be $10 on these cards that you're trading in. Yeah. So I should just say that.
It's too bad, because if I could trade in my my $31 left gift cards, and I could get $30 in CVS bills, but I think that this is an interesting story, and hopefully they're going to do a follow-up to find out how effective this was in converting into real customers. But we were talking about this before we actually started filming, about it's about, also for me, it's about rewarding people while they're in store, right? So they've got all these places in the store you can do this, and you can redeem these coupons that don't belong to CVS and convert them into CVS coupons or gift cards. And I think that, look, if I'm in store, you've already enticed me. I'm there. I'm about to make a purchase. Don't take away the cash. Don't take that out of your pocket. Do it so that it entices me to come in. And I think that's one of the key things that they should be doing here. This is about bringing people into stores. It's not about converting them and giving them discounts while they're standing in line. So hopefully they're doing that. So, I mean, if you're interested in it, obviously do a search for CVS, but you can get to plasticjungle.com, and it'll explain it, and go buy a couple of those gift cards for cheap. They make good presents. Yeah. All right, our fourth story is about this service that they're actually looking for funding. It's a company called, or an idea called, Capsuling Me. Why don't you explain it, Asif? Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run a quick video here, just a few minutes of a video, and then we'll come back and explain it.
When I was a child, I used to play this game called Time Capsule. You take your favorite toys, photos, your personal writings, put it in a box and bury it underground, hoping that one day in the future someone will come and discover your treasure. Now think about all those moments that you filmed. All those sad, bored memories sitting there in your phone, camera, hard drive or Facebook wall, waiting to be relevant for someone. Don't you think your work deserves a proper stage? That's why we created a new web platform that brings the time capsule game into the online world. Now, you can record an experience, put it in a time capsule, and have it bound to the place where you made it. Instead of it getting lost in YouTube, buried among millions of other videos, you can now leave it to a friend or a stranger that will visit this place in the future, making any place in the world your stage, and all people passing by your potential audience.
All right, so that's a little bit of a summary of Capsuling Me. Now, what do you think about that, Asif?
I think I'm a big fan of content tagged to locations. The idea of it being contextual and being shared specific to a location. So from that perspective, I like this idea. It's not completely new. Obviously, Broadcastr, that we're going to be talking about in a little bit, does this. Eavesdrop. There's a number of platforms that are focused on creating content and leaving it tagged to a location. What's a little bit different about this platform, again, just to define it for the audience out there, is what we're talking about is site-specific media, generated on a mobile device and left at a specific location. What's a little bit different about capsuling.me is again, this is a concept, not a company yet, is a time element and a user limiting factor to it as well. So it's kind of like the company's called capsuling.me. They're going after the idea of a time capsule, right? That we all did as kids, in school somewhere along the way, where we fill up the giant thing and bury it in the school backyard somewhere for 100 years from now, somebody to open up and learn about their history. So it's a little bit like that is what they're going after here. Is that but in a virtual way, connected to a specific location, content being left there. But you can do them on a personal level, is what they're suggesting. You can set up your own Google Circle kind of thing, private capsules, for family, for friends. You know, they're going after artists and journalists and you know, people like that to create capsules. So I mean, conceptually, I like it. You know, obviously, as a business model, it's challenging.
I think that that's the key thing here, is that you know, conceptually we loved Broadcastr as well, is this ability to leave a legacy at a location, at a specific time, at a specific date, or just always on. And I think that that's going to be their challenge here as well. And they're trying to raise money. They haven't raised a lot, 170 euros. But if you know, if you're interested in this, you saw the video, go to Capsuling Me, Capsuling, that's SULING.me, Capsuling Me. And you know what, I'm always fascinated in this because I believe in living history, right? And
Yeah.
if I can do this, this is something to me that I would love to do it. And you know, it can happen overnight. Is that, boy, wouldn't it be great? I just keep thinking about that. If you documented your entire life and the places that you've been and the locations that you are, and your kids and your grandkids and your great-grandkids and your great-great-great-great-grandkids are able to hear the story that you tell in your own voice, right? That this is the future of storytelling. I definitely believe that.
And you know, I applaud them for you know, trying to, you know. By the way, this is a Berlin-based company, and they're trying to raise capital, and they're doing it, you know, via crowdfunding type of model. So, you know, there's still time. You can get in there if you want. You know, throw 20 euros in there and help these guys out.
Yeah, I like this, and man, I hope they succeed. Somebody's got to succeed, because you know, Broadcastr, who we're going to talk about right now, Broadcastr went down this path as well, which was the personal curated, you know, always on location based radio station of stories, right? So it's historical. They did this great. I don't even know. They had this great project with the 9/11 Foundation. So at the memorial at 9/11, they would talk about survivor stories, and you could hear the survivors talking about 9/11. They could hear survivors talking at that location, or you know, family members talking about their, you know, their family members that died at 9/11. And I think that it's a powerful way to capture this kind of stuff. And I think that that's what Capsuling Me is trying to do here in the way that they've described it. And I wish them all the best. But it didn't work out so well for Broadcastr. I mean, they've, which is our fifth story, they've spun around into creating a company called Spun, which is another mobile app, a curated news mobile app, location-based curated news app. But so Broadcastr didn't work out so well for them, and there's a number of reasons, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But why don't you talk about what Spun is?
Well, I mean, so if we think of Broadcastr as a you know, an app again for leaving audio content, you know, tagged to specific locations. You know, Spun, you know, is really about taking content not limited to audio, you know, still connected to locations, but widening the circle really around that. You know, how you define what a location is. So it's no longer just, you know, Central Park, but it might be, you know, the entire neighborhood around Central Park, or it might be all of Midtown. It is a location as a hyper-local community. You know, so I think this is really interesting. You know, it kind of moves it more into kind of the world of what, you know, Patch should have been over at AOL for me. So I really like this. I think this is a nice way to pivot. You know, I think it recognizes challenges, you know, around, you know, at the moment anyways, challenges around, you know, simply defining a content story around too narrow of a definition of a location in some respects.
Yeah, and you'll hear from the interview that will come up in a second with Scott Lindenbaum, who's one of the co-founders, is that he'll give you the reasons why they migrated from Broadcastr into something called Spun. And you know, I got to tell you though that the stories that they said, and this interview will be up in a couple of weeks on Untitled.tv. If hopefully you'll remember that, and you'll be able to go and take a look at it. But the app itself is beautiful, and you know, the process by which they built this app, Scott walks us through, And I mean, it's part design, it's UX and UI, but it's psychological, it's psychographic. I mean, it's everything that you can imagine. It's how we create habit. There's little reward intonations, like when you click a story and you save a story, it plays music, and you know, that the conversation is astounding around this thing. But one of the key things that they did is that they somehow got on the radar of Apple and went back and forth with Apple to help not co-create, but get advice and feedback on the way that they've built this interface and this design. And it's worked very, very, very well. And I think, in fact, the music of the app was created by the drummer for Wilco, of all people, right? It just, this is what New York brings. And it's available right now, I think, in 7 cities, including New York City, all the main areas. They're going to expand to 20 or 25 in the coming months. And it's a really interesting app. And the first story that I ever looked on it, which was last week when they launched it, was this great story in New York about cover albums that have been shot in New York City. So these are recording artists, Bob Dylan, Simon and Garfunkel. These are artists that had the cover of their albums that were filmed or shot in New York City, and they superimposed this is just an article from a New York magazine, but they superimposed the album cover over where they actually is, you know, the location. So you saw everything around it, and then what's so cool about Spun is that as you're scrolling through the story and you're seeing the photo of the album, there's a little map at the top that tells you where it is. And so when you drop down the map and you can see where all of the albums are that you've just looked at, and then if you favorite that article, gives you this nice little music that says, hey, thank you. But then it also indicates that when you're nearby to one of those significant spots, we will tell you that you're nearby the Bob Dylan album, or you're in the subway with Simon and Garfunkel's album. Yeah. That whole experience was just, it's very well created. It enhances things that I think that we're only starting to now understand. But that's what Spun is about. Pretty cool. That's a long way to explain that, but I got enthusiastic. So Spun is spun out of Broadcastr. And Capsuling Me is trying to do what Broadcastr was doing. So this is going to be interesting to watch as these things happen like this. Have I said enough about Spun?
Yeah. Well, let's hear from the man himself.
Let's do that. If you're interested in Spun, go to getspun.com. It's iOS only right now, obviously. So go and check it out if you have an iPhone. And here is Scott Lindenbaum, the co-founder of Spun and Broadcastr, talking about the transition. Why move from Broadcastr to Spun? Scott, take it away. Scott, welcome, man. Thank you for doing this.
Hey, Rob. Good to be back on Tether, man. It's my pleasure to be here.
I love the fact that I can have having you back is great. And I reached out because I noticed that the website was down, right? Broadcastr said, hey, sign up for the new Broadcastr. And I waited, and then all of a sudden spun out of this. And I thought, I got to get Scott on. I got to hear what happened because, as you know, Asif Khan and myself from the Location-Based Marketing Association loved Broadcastr, loved the application, loved the concept of it. And I think it's still going to have its day, but just got to know what happened to Broadcastr and what Spun is. So, man, why don't we start there?
Yeah,
what happened?
No, it's interesting because I think your response to Broadcastr was actually a response that we saw almost across the board. And people like yourself and many other people in the media and partners said this is great. And what we saw was really interesting. Over the course of a year and a half with Broadcastr, even though everyone we talked to said, wow, that's a great concept, I would love to be on the Brooklyn Bridge, hearing about the Brooklyn Bridge, only about 7% of the users ever did that exact behavior. And that behavior we defined as being within eyesight of the place that was being referenced by the audio. Now, interestingly enough, about 76%, so the overwhelming majority of Broadcastr users, consumed content, even though they could consume it from anywhere in the world. We are in just about every continent, within 50 miles of where they lived. So they would start where they lived, and then they would immediately punch out. They'd go like that on their phone, and then they would look for the things that were interesting to them, not necessarily where they were right then, but in neighborhoods that maybe they were familiar with, that they had an emotional connection to. And that was the majority of the consumption. Only about 17% of it was content of like 1,000 miles away. So we saw the travel use case was fairly small, meaning a virtual travel 1,000 miles away. The actual immersive use case, which I think is what everyone really loved in theory, was extremely small. But the city level use case was huge. And we actually had really good re-engagement around that. And we also saw that professional content was being engaged with to the tune of 10,000 times more than the user-generated content. And I think the reason for that is really, really simple. If you look at something like YouTube, which really, especially in the early days, exploded based on user-generated content, you see a service that can draw in 24 hours of video every minute from anywhere in the world. But then every day you get a handful, right, that really bubble up that are great. Now, once you limit that to even just the city level, it becomes very unlikely you're going to get a great video every day. And when or audio or whatever, and then when you limit that to my block, it's basically impossible. And so there's this thing that happens where you can court the UGC and you can eventually get that user-generated content to be great, but you can't get it to be great often enough to retain the user who expects the kind of churn of content that we have now in our minds from things like Twitter and Facebook. So we put all this together, we collected all these metrics, and we said, okay, this is rad, but we've got to find a way to create something that has all professional content, that is intimate insofar as it's on a city and neighborhood level, and that doesn't have a physical hurdle to usability. So I went out to Stanford and studied with this guy, BJ Fogg, who does something called behavior design. And he applies behavioral science and psychology to the idea of UI, UX design. And he says there's 6 hurdles to ability. And always when we create an application, we're trying to create an ability shift. We're trying to make some behavior that you already do easier to do, right? So there's 6 hurdles, right? One, I'll see if I can remember them all.
It's a good test.
You've got, yeah, it is a test. BJ will be proud. Time, right? So when someone says, I don't have the time, what they basically mean is it's too difficult for me, right? I don't have the time. I don't have the money. It's too expensive, too difficult for me. It is too physically difficult for me to do it. So if you look at a very simple behavior like going for a run, somebody's got a broken leg, it's too difficult, right? They don't have running shoes, too expensive. They work 7 days a week, not enough time. Now when you look at some of the other ones, brain cycles. How hard is it for me to understand what I'm supposed to do? So with something like Broadcastr, this is a totally new kind of behavior, especially outside of like a walking tour. And so it's very difficult for people to conceive, what are they asking me to do? And then the last 2 are, is it socially deviant? In other words, is it unacceptable in my social group to do this? So for example, if the behavior that you want is, to connect with strangers around you, to go on a flash date, right? And it's, but in your social circle, people are very conservative when it comes to dating. You're probably not going to do it. It's too difficult for you to break the moray, right? And then the last one is, does it break a pre-existing behavior that's a part of your daily life? So if, for example, you want somebody to do the behavior of come to my bar every Saturday, and you say it's cheap, it's easy to get to, it's close to your house, you don't have to think about it, we will send you directions via SMS, we'll do all these things, but that person goes to visit their mother who's undergoing cancer treatment every Saturday, you're never going to be able to break that behavior. So no matter what you do, you don't have a chance. And if even one of these 6 things is too difficult, they won't do it. So with Broadcastr, when you look at it, you've got physical hurdle, which is I got to have headphones and I got to put them in. You've got social deviance, right? Am I with a group of people? It's inappropriate for me to put my headphones in. You've got a mental issue. How difficult is it for me to understand? I don't do this anywhere else in my life. It's not a behavior I'm already doing that I need to be made easier. So as a result, we captured a lot of people. I mean, we had about 50,000 monthly active users.
50,000.
Yeah, that's not bad. We had about 250,000 try it out. But what we found was we were hitting this ceiling. And so we retooled.
Scott Lindenbaum, the co-founder of Spun. Look, this interview, really, this episode is over an hour long. It's full of these nuggets, like what you just heard, but it really gets into the reasons why they designed the app the way they did, and the psychology that went into the designing of the app, and integrating the things like habit forming. It's amazing. Anyway, like, so impressed with Scott. So impressed with Scott. If you want to download it, go to getspun.com or just look for Spun in the App Store, iOS only right now. And he'll explain why in that episode as soon as it gets posted. So keep a lookout. Hey, and if you really want to know when these episodes get posted, like this one, and you don't want to sign up for iTunes, sign up for the email list, and you'll get it in your inbox as soon as it's out there. So we thank Scott for participating in this week in location-based marketing. All right, on to some funding news, Asif. Some funding and acquisition news. We have talked about this. Our first story, we've talked about this company quite a bit. Urban Airship, certainly the darling when it comes to notifications and in-app notifications. They have acquired another company called Tello. The last acquisition they did was about a year ago. And so they've been on a slow acquisition strategy, but I think they're very strategic in their acquisitions. And Tello, this version of Tello makes sense for a company like Urban Airship. So you want to give people a reminder what Urban Airship is, and then we'll talk about Tello?
Yeah, Urban Airship is one of the leaders in push notifications in app. So many of the the apps that we love to play with, from Shopkick to Walgreens, ESPN's app, use Urban Airship's technology on the back end to do push notifications inside of those apps. So that's what they do. And Tello, this company that they've acquired, is a company that is focused on sort of helping brands create and manage Passbook, Apple Passbook, platforms, I guess is the word I want. So if you're trying to create or manage a pass for within Passbook, that's the word I wanted, a pass. It should have been easier than that.
Sometimes language sucks.
Then that's what Tello does. So if you think about it, then the combination of Tello and Urban Airship starts to make some interesting sense, right? If you the marriage of push notifications with passes inside of Passbook, that's a lot of P's. Passes inside of Passbook. All right. Anyhow, I like it. So this is and Scott Kavitan over at Urban Airship, super smart guy. These guys know what they're doing. The acquisition path might be slow, but I think it's very strategic.
So do I. I like this. I like this a lot. In fact, I've interviewed Scott a couple of times on Untitled.tv, and each time it's just basically two guys screaming about their love of mobile, right? It's just back and forth, and it's great. It's very energetic. And actually, Joe Beninato, who is the CEO of Tello, also interviewed him back in his previous business, which was called Tello. But they did almost instant feedback for service industry, and that didn't stick.
Which I really liked, actually.
Yeah, we talked about it.
We did way back when, somewhere like episode 20 or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I like the idea as well. Maybe it just when it comes to pattern and habit forming and changing behaviors, and it just seemed like he was up against it. He only had a small number of customers that were using it, and until he went to Pass Tools, and you can find information about these guys at passtools.com. For Tello and this relationship what they have with Urban Airship. But he said that what really kicked it off was opening up an API to enable this inside of other people's apps. And I think that this is one of those key things. You know what else? What always surprises me, and this is how smart Urban Airship is, and how smart Tello and Joe and Scott and their entire teams are, is that we talk about getting into mobile and the first steps of getting into mobile. And people always think, okay, I got to make it like, a responsive design website. I got to redesign my website. I got to put it all together. And then, oh man, I need an app. And then, oh man, I need this and I need this. Well, here's a really great way to get into mobile. Here's a tip, is that use something like, Apple's Passbook, right? Create a coupon, create incentive to buy, and put it into the Passbook. Don't build an app, just build a coupon to be in Passbook. It's the same way that I think that Zappos is brilliant when they, instead of building a Zappos app, They built a Zappos catalog and put it into the, not through the App Store, but through the bookstore for iOS.
Right.
And you've got to be able to test the water. So don't build this huge app or this infrastructure.
Totally agree.
Go build Passbook. I mean, this is an avenue to 160 million users. Just get on mobile. Mobile does not mean app. It also could mean podcast, audio, video podcast, and it can be
in some respects, it's no different than what we started with at the top of the show. The importance of the carrier in terms of reach.
Absolutely.
Right. The same conversation happens here in terms of Passbook and things like that. It's an opportunity to a wide base without you having to worry about building your own app and driving downloads and all those challenges.
Well, and Passtools is one way to do it. Right, it's a drag and drop. It's a what you see is what you get interface to be able to build Passbook apps. So, man, like there's just that tip alone for some of you guys is going to be worth gold, worth sponsoring this episode or this entire podcast, if you ask me. If you're interested, go to urbanairship.com or you can go to tello.com or passtools.com. They'll all take you to one spot. And this is, I think we both agree, like they share investors, Tello and Urban Airship. This is an industry that's going to be growing simply because it's one that's going to be big for Passbook because of Apple's reach. But this is a good, and you can start to think about the potential. This is a great match. This is a great match for two companies. It's logical. So we're all for it. What do you think about Urban Airship and Tello? Reach out. Let us know. You know how to reach us. For those that are new, untether@gmail.com or sif@lbma.com. All right, our first funding story, Clearstory. This is a great concept. They raised $9 million. We are inundated with data, and the data is in multiple locations. Somebody is going to strike gold when they are able to bring all that data in one spot, find a common layer of data, and then make decisions based on that data, infer. And that's what, I guess, Clearstory's business model is. You're okay with this?
I'm a data geek and I love this stuff, and I love the approach that Clearstory is taking here. So, first of all, this is a funding story. So, $9 million. It's coming from Kleiner Perkins, Caulfield and Byers, Andreessen Horowitz, and Google Ventures are the key leaders in this one. There's gazillions and gazillions of bytes of data being generated out there, and more of it growing at an exponential rate. And it's coming in all forms and shapes and sizes, from all sorts of different places. And, how you store that data, how you access that data, what you do with that data in terms of making business decisions and and taking actions upon it is a key problem. And it's one thing to collect data; it's another thing to actually be able to analyze it in an effective way that can be a positive, create a positive impact on your business. And what Clearstory is basically saying is there's a shortage of people who are capable of doing that job, the data analyst job. And they're building a platform that is going to do that for you. So I love the example that in the story that I read that Sharmila Shahani Mulligan, who's the founder of this company, said. So I'm actually going to read this because I like how she describes this. So she said, a company might track activity on its Facebook launch page as it's happening, as well as on Twitter and from Omnichannel or Google Analytics. And once players actually start playing games, she's talking about a video game here, the company could work in data about who's playing it, where they're playing it from an Xbox Live perspective. And over the next couple of days or weeks, it might start analyzing its own sales data, its marketing spend, reviews from gaming websites, and perhaps data from a service such as Nielsen on consumer awareness. And this is the problem. Like, there's so much data. If you're Microsoft and you got this game platform out there and you're trying to figure out and you're spending ad dollars, and we talked about this last night on the panel at Coke. You're spending ad dollars in multiple forms of media to try and build awareness around this game that you put out there, or your EA Sports, in the example that she's giving here. you're pulling data in, and you're measuring performance on your ad spend across so many different platforms. How do you start to make sense of that? How do you start to correlate it? Is there a master dashboard? And that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here is, the ability to do the analyst work. So anyways, I don't want to go too much into it. I love this company. I love what they're doing, and glad they got $9 million to go do more.
It is a great story because it tells a great story. And I think that this is, you and I are both the same way. When we love data, and we hate to see it get spoiled. And if you're going to collect data, don't let it spoil. And I think that Clearstory is one of those companies, and among others, that are going to help in this and create a new bar of automation for understanding the data that's coming in. So if you're interested, go to clearstorydata.com, and boy, oh boy, take a look at them. $9 million. Good for them. And Andreessen Horowitz, man. Mark Andreessen, the guy is funding the Valley himself. Well, with Horowitz, but he's funding everything. God love him.
Yeah.
God love him. All right, our last funding story is a company called Poshmark, and they raised a little bit of money. And this, I didn't believe this to begin with. I didn't believe how insane this little community is. But man, when I dove into it, I got lost in people's closets. So Steve, talk about this. First, how much did they raise?
They raised $12 million. It's a Series B for them. It's led by Menlo Ventures, and it's got Mayfield Fund, Inventus Capital, and Softtech VC also, which were in the Series A, have participated in the second round here as well. So $12 million.
What is it?
Poshmark is a very interesting concept. I'm describing it as Craigslist plus eBay, for selling this stuff in your closet. And it's really interesting, but doing it in a very mobile oriented way. I think you described it as kind of the same, but with a Pinterest look and feel.
Yeah.
And it's it's very interesting to me because the challenge with something like that is with Craigslist or eBay is if I have stuff in my house I want to sell, I got to go around. I got to take all these photos, and then I got to upload them to the site, and I got to post them up there and put a price, and there's all these steps you got to do. And basically they're just automating all of that in a very simple, easy way, in a very Pinterest-like way, selling the clothes in your closet. But it's interesting.
But it's amazing. Like I pulled up this one example. I'll pull it up again here for those who are watching. Is that Annie's Closet, which is just one of them, and she is Bananikins. Is her name. She has 85,496 followers, 162 listings, and it's basically like exposing your closet, reducing the price, and letting people buy from your closet. And then there's even bartering and exchanges. I'll exchange that blouse for these pants.
Yeah.
I'm like, and the filming is the photography is beautiful. Like this is, I think I chuckled when I saw this to begin with, but then I thought I saw this on eBay. There was a trend a long time ago along in this world of people that would just recycle their clothes. They'd buy it, wear it for a season, and then put it up on eBay. They put up their entire closet on eBay, and this is just that. And people were funding, and I think I probably read about this in either Crush It or 4 Hour Workweek on humans, people that were selling their stuff. Unused dishes, lamps, chairs, clothes, shoes, and here it is called Poshmark.com. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, and they even do I was reading further on about these guys, and they even do meetups. Like they'll have what they call posh parties, where women can get together and buy jewelry or whatever.
I think it's a this is very interesting. Like here's 210,000 followers in a service like this. They've obviously got the ear and the eye and the attention of the appropriate demographic for this. And boy oh boy, this is something. So $12 million, it's astounding. Like that's a lot of money. But boy, they said that there was $100 million in sales that have flown through Poshmark in the last year. $100 million. So this seems about right. I don't know what their percentage is. I don't know how much it works, but they must take a shaving off the top like eBay would do. But But boy, this is rich in demographic data. So if you combine Poshmark's data with Clearstory's ability to decipher the data, you got a winning story here. $21 million. Those are two great companies, two great fundings. If we missed yours, come on. It's your fault. I keep saying this, man. We will run the story.
Watching this, and we got a huge following of the show now, and a lot of great interaction going on, and we'd love to have you on as a sponsor. It's a great way to get your message across, and Rob and I would love to work with you on making that happen. So sponsors out there, we're willing to take you on.
Exactly. You know what I find, Asif, as we're transitioning into our last piece, the resource of the week. I don't know about you, but our numbers are going up, and if you give us a second here to talk about this, our numbers are going up exponentially, and we've got some great syndication partners in GPS Business News and Street Fight Mag, and we're looking for others, obviously. But I find that all of a sudden, sometimes when I'm preparing for this, and I do a little bit more prep than I did before, I'm not off the cuff as I used to be, because I start to get nervous about not knowing my stuff, and then I start to think about what I'm going to say to the audience as we're talking about this, because the audience is growing and growing and growing, and the reach is growing and growing and growing, and I don't want to be the grumpy old man anymore. So I get a little nervous having this much of an audience, and I think it's great for the first time. It was easy when it was just your mom and my mom watching this, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and even my mom said,
"I'm right with you." But the nice thing is that we see these stories, we watch what's going on around the world. People send us stuff all the time. And one thing we can certainly say about this show, if you watch this show regularly or it's your first time, is we're just going to tell it like we see it, and that's it. We don't try and sugarcoat anything on this. So,
no,
it's as simple as that.
It's that easy, which is probably why sponsors don't like us. That's a joke. All right, let's. Our last piece here is a resource of the week, and this is a white paper that's available at thelbma.com/research. This is called. It's by Motorola Retail, called "Winning the Omnichannel Battle." Asif, take it away. What is the omnichannel battle, and who's winning and who's fighting it?
Well, the omnichannel battle is something that retailers talk about all the time, it's this idea that there's that obviously aligns very much with our philosophy at the LBMA around location, which is multiple intersection points from a media perspective in terms of engaging consumers, digital screens in store audio, point of sale systems, mobile couponing. All of these things are channels for engaging a potential shopper. Along the path to purchase, along the shopper journey, so that's what the omnichannel piece is, the battle, and the challenge around it is really about is a couplefold. Is trying to understand which channel at the right time, and place, but also try the data story around that too, right? The Clearstory aspect of that, which is all the data that comes from all the different channels, and how you start to build a cohesive business proposition around that. So this is a paper that they've put out here. It's got some interesting stats in it, like they all do. One of them, which I know you and I talked about beforehand, says that more than 80% of brick and mortar retailers will have wireless networks available in their stores by 2017.
Yes.
Yeah. And my view on that too, which is 2017. It's going to be a lot sooner than that. So I'm not sure which retailers they talk to in this one, but one thing I shared with you before we started recording today is, just this week alone on the 3 conferences I was involved in, one in Canada, here in Toronto, one in Miami, and one in Atlanta. In all 3 cases, there were retailers there, big retailers there, that I talked to, and every one of them, every single one of them said for 2013, indoor location and positioning, based on Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or something like that, is top on their agenda for things that they're looking at. So I have a hard time believing it's going to be 2017 before we're all enabled, or 80% of the bricks and mortar retailers are enabled.
It can't take that long. It can't take that long. Like, that's 5 years from now.
Yeah. There's no way it's going to take that.
Well, I mean, if Tim Hortons, a coffee chain here in Canada, can announce the fact that they're going to bring a Wi-Fi into their stores 60 days ago and roll it out, and they're all now in Canada Wi-Fi enabled, like, then there's no reason that something should take 5 years to get 80%.
Yeah.
But I have a question on that, Asif, is that, so, you know, I use it in a coffee shop, like Starbucks. Absolutely. It's worth my $1 or $2 or whatever my coffee's going to cost to sit there forever and use it. And here in Ottawa, we've got a Bridgehead. Same thing. It's a great environment. I sit and I do my work, free Wi-Fi. But I've never once had an inclination to use the Best Buy free Wi-Fi, the Future Shop free Wi-Fi, or Sears free Wi-Fi, or any retail outlet. Like, to go through that process, instead, well, I've got LTE or 3G connected on my phone. I've never considered that. So are people really using in-store Wi-Fi aside from restaurants and coffee shops?
Well, I think that you have to look at that from two perspectives, right? So I think from the consumer's point of view, yes, I'll agree with you to some extent. I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done in defining the value in the mind of the consumer for connecting to that Wi-Fi network, sharing their location in that way, in a one-to-one, relationship way. There has to be some value there, and there has to be a lot more work to teach and educate the consumer on as to what that is. On the other side, however, I think there's lots of value for the retailer, the merchant, tons and tons of value on two levels. One, the consumer engagement one. That requires education, but the opportunity to push coupons or offers that are relevant when you know exactly where they are and what aisle they're in and where they're standing in the store, there's an opportunity there. The simpler one in some respects, and the bigger opportunity I think for these guys is the analytics that can come from just watching foot traffic patterns around your stores, indoor mapping of your environments. Planogramming exercises that can evolve from that. So I think there's big value in Wi-Fi or enabling wireless network-wise your retail environment, just in terms of tracking data. And actually, that in some respects, you don't even have to connect to the Wi-Fi network at the consumer level. We can just track device IDs that are in proximity to those routers and collect a lot of that data in the same way. And
it's all done anonymously. It's an interesting story. Is that the education not only on the consumer side about the benefits, but the retailers also have to offer a benefit. And there's certain things that I've said, and even I read this Motorola Omnichannel study, is that you think about what you can do with it, is that if you convince somebody how do you convince somebody, if you're a retailer, to come onto your Wi-Fi network? And perhaps it is an automatic loyalty engagement piece, right? So that if you log on to the Wi-Fi network, you can get pushed deals when you're in the store. You get directions when you're in the store. You get a different interface when you're in the store when it launches, so it can help you find the things you need to do. And then you get a benefit. And every time you come in there, you get a benefit. You get a check-in of sorts to be able to say that you're a loyal customer, and then you reap the benefits from that. So I think that there's a long way to educate on this, but I've never even once considered using the Sears Wi-Fi hub as opposed to Rogers connectivity or my carrier's connectivity, that 3G or LTE. So even I don't know the benefit of why I would do this. So I think that retailers need to be able to explore this a little bit more and put a marketing message on this to their consumers. So maybe this will help. I think this is really interesting. It's a good article, or it's a good white paper. So, and it's not long. It's like 15 pages, 10 pages. So go. Yeah, 9 or 10 pages, 9 pages. Something like that. Go to the lbma.com/research. Look for how brick and mortar retailers can win the omni-channel battle. It sounds so ominous, like omni-channel. And it's worth a good scan. It gives some good examples about how you should be using this if you're in the retail business. And that is our resource. And that is our show, man. It seems like just an hour ago we started. Oh, it was. Yeah. It was. Well, there's just that much to talk about every week. So I'm amazed. I think that we could probably do a 30-minute daily show. We wouldn't put you through that. But I think we probably could do a 30-minute daily show and a 1-hour wrap at the end of the week. Because that's how much information. It moves that fast, and there is that much. It's really hard to decide what to talk about every week because there's just so many things that, just don't make the cut at the end of the day. And there's stories that are out there. Like, we haven't even followed up about, Black Friday and Cyber Monday and the impact on location and that. Those stats are coming through here. See, it's like it's forgotten. I mean, that was 2 weeks ago, and it's out of our heads, right? So, this is an industry that is under constant barrage and constant change, and it's so great to be a part of it. And we thank you for welcoming us into your ears or eyes once a week. Really appreciate it. And, we're here getting great feedback. I love this. We've had tweets and emails that come out and say, listen, you know what? I'm frantically trying to catch up. I'm at like episode 97. And I'm like, come on, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So if you have any suggestions, comments, critiques, compliments, please reach out. You like Asif's new lighting? Look at that. It's he's got light on him. It's like, oh. Reach out, untethered@gmail.com or asif@thelbma.com. And if you have any stories, suggestions, if you're from a part of the world that we haven't covered yet, Australia, if you're out there, please. We've covered a little bit, but what's going on down there? Reach out, be our correspondent in Australia, feed us some stories from around the world. We will cover them here. We want to make sure that this is a global look. Speaking of global looks, we'll have another announcement coming soon around some other stuff that we're working on with the Location-Based Marketing Association and This Week in Location-Based Marketing. So really appreciate you guys hanging around. Asif, anything else to add to that, buddy?
No, I'm all good. I wish you and all of our viewers and listeners a great week as well. And looking forward to episode 100.
Which will be next week. We'll bring it to you, of course, with all the latest news, a good resource, and a stellar guest. Come back and join us for episode number 108 next week. And until then, thank you for watching. Asif, man, safe travels to San Francisco. Enjoy your last road trip of 2012.
Thanks.